You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. As we were tuning up here, Dave from Colorado called in, so let's get Dave right on the line because long distance fees,
Is he from Colorado or does he have a 21 Colorado?
Oh, that's a good question. Dave, are you from Colorado or do you drive a Colorado or both?
Well, actually, I'm from South Dakota, just up at the state capital, but I do drive a 21 Colorado. So.
Okay.
And that's what I got a question about. I'm kind of the anti-Chris. I like to change my oil often, and I understand in these vehicles, listening to your show, that maybe that first oil change, you don't want to do it quite so soon because you need to have that break-in oil in there longer. Now, I've had it, bought it, I actually ordered it back in January and finally got it in August. But anyway, I've been driving it, and I've got about 1,700 miles, mostly in-town miles on it. But when should I change the oil? I know it's been almost 6 months, and it just drives me nuts having it in there that long, but I don't want to change it too soon and not, get the engine broken properly. So I guess I'm just looking for a little insight.
First of all, I'm glad you didn't put a T on the end of that anti because we would not accept that call.
Right.
I did that on purpose. That was fun.
So how many miles are on this now again?
1,700.
1,700, yeah.
Mostly in-town miles. I've had it out on the highway probably about 400.
I'd like to see more miles on it, but I'm getting a little concerned with the, with the time. You could use a non-synthetic. If you want to change that oil because it's been 6 months, you could change it with a non-synthetic blend.
For that first oil
engine
change?
Oil for the first oil change, just to get it. So they put the oil they put in is typically a break-in oil that is not a fully synthetic in order to seat the rings and stuff properly in the engine for around the first 5,000 miles, 5 to 10, and then you can put whatever you want in it. Even engines that say fully synthetic, equipped Mobil 1, that type of thing, they want you to break them in. Our engine remanufacturers that we use specifically say do not use fully synthetic engine oil in the vehicle for the first 5,000 miles. A couple of them, or one of them says 10,000 miles. They say, or the warranty may be void. So if you've got an oil consumption issue, they take the engine apart and see that the rings haven't seated, and it's because you either over-towed with it right away or you used the wrong oil in it, they may void the claim, depending on how you purchased the engine, what type of warranty you purchased with it. The factory is a little different. If you buy an engine and they want you to go by when it pops up that first oil change and says change the oil, and if it starts burning oil a lot, and for them, a lot is like, oh, it burns 3 quarts in 100 miles? Well, then we're going to do something. But if it's using a quart every oil change, which they shouldn't, engines just don't do that anymore, then they usually tell you to go fly a kite.
Do another oil study.
Yeah, I would. If it was my own vehicle, I would change it, and I would use a non-synthetic oil in there. Even if I use something like a Joe Gibbs racing oil or something like that was a non-synthetic, just a conventional, but
Make
still
sure it's the right viscosity, though.
Good, got to be exactly the right viscosity and meet the API rating on the starburst symbol. But I would do that, and then after that, yes, I would use a fully synthetic in it, but I would change it a little more often. Knowing what we do about the engines in these vehicles, we're already starting to see some issues with timing chains in these where they're gumming up the oiler that oils the timing chain, and when that happens, the chain starts to, the tensioners drag. They don't take up the slack like they should, and they can jump teeth and things like that. So,
and for you, the big concern that, and we're sitting here saying the word concern like this isn't like imminent that you're going to hurt something. You're being very cautious. Most people listening are like, really? You know, he's worrying about this? You got a brand new vehicle, it's fine. I mean, that's what most people listening are probably thinking. And you know what? For the most part, you're right.
Right.
But if you really want to care for this thing and think about it, if you've done that 6 months of not a lot of highway driving, a lot of stop and go short trips, in our climate where he's calling from, you've had temperature swings of 50 degrees in a day from 20 below to 30 above, and we've got enough condensation and stuff that'll form inside that engine. Moisture is going to be his biggest enemy,
right?
Because he hasn't got out and really drove that thing on regular cycles to heat it up. And so that's why I joined Russ in the concern, just because the way he's using the vehicle as a brand new vehicle. So if you want to be ultra careful and you don't mind changing your oil, I think it's just fine with I agree with what Russ just said.
How many of you right now, if you're listening out there, are thinking, I wish I would have taken better care, like we take ourselves. We're 50 and we go, I wish I would have taken better care of myself. Knowing where, if you own a car now that you did buy brand new and it's got 200,000 on it now, and you're thinking, boy, if I only took better care of this.
Mm-hmm. They got 200,000. They didn't do too bad. Depends on how much it costs to get there.
We had one yesterday that was a beautiful vehicle, but it wasn't really cared for. The body was perfect in and out, but I think with a little more maintenance, it probably would have done a little better.
Does that help you out there, Dave?
It sure does. I typically like to change my oil because of my driving habits about every 4 months, which people tell me it's a waste, but I guess I'd rather spend a few dollars and a bunch of dollars on the back end.
Well, if you were in certain states, they probably wouldn't let you do it. You'd be in violation for overchanging your oil.
Right.
And so,
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, that there's statutes in areas of California that,
Colorado.
and Colorado, Russ said too, that you are, by code, only allowed to change your oil so often because of the concern about overchanging and the use of the crude, of the fossil fuels and
Europe
and
too,
all that stuff.
But like in Europe, you're buying oil that will make it that long. You know, it's expensive and it's good, very good quality.
Like our partner Liqui-Moly, the types of things that they make.
Dave, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Going back to what he said, though, at the beginning, and this we've run into this many, many times over the years, and this isn't, I'm not picking on Dave, even though he picked on me. When people hear things that are specific to a car or a situation, and then they just kind of internalize it as something they heard, that could be a situation there. Because we've talked in the past, I mean, we've recently talked about the break-in period of certain cars being 10,000 miles and things like that. May or may not relate to your car.
That's a generalization, right?
Right.
We take it as a generalization when it's meant to be one thing. I can't remember what it is because we often put it into a generalization category, but there was just something this last week I was thinking of, and I thought, well, that's not right. But I've trained myself to believe this is right when it really wasn't.
Specific.
So we have had people call this show and say, well, you guys always say this. It's like, that's not true. We don't always say this. We say specifically for this situation, and then they quickly remember and say, oh, well, Yeah, but I was just thinking no, it's not for everything. When we say just disconnect your battery to reset something, okay, they're thinking, no, stop. We always follow that up, always, with in this specific case on your car, you should do this. It's
Right.
not a generalization, so it's specific.
It's a danger that people have in life is that they will use, and I've said this a couple of times, they'll take the information that's available that best fits their current situation and go with it for a positive or a negative way.
Right.
And then say, well, this person said that,
this will run between $20 and $200. Oh, $20, great.
Exactly.
I'm going to pay you between $20 and $200. Oh, $200, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And then if we hear that enough, all of a sudden we're bound by that. We think that's what it's going to be. Spark plugs. Great example. How long did we train people? Oh, they're good for 100,000 miles. That's when you should check them. Well, that happened for about a 10-year period. And now they're back to some cars 24,000 miles on some of these little turbo engines.
You said that on the show the other day, and it really made me stop and pause and stare at you. I think the first time you said that.
They are literally falling apart and destroying engines. Because let's think of it. You got a 24,000 mile plug, and you run it 100,000 miles till the electrode falls off into the cylinder and scores it up. Well, shame on whoever is teaching you how to maintain that car. Was it you? Was it the dealer? Was it a mechanic? Pull the owner's manual out and see what it says for service intervals. If it says inspect those spark plugs or change them.
And now someone's going to call in a week and go, now I heard you say you should change your spark plugs every 24,000 miles.
Look up the guide for your vehicle. There's a maintenance guide for your vehicle.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Kansas and talk to Craig. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Craig, what can we do for you?
Okay, so I've got a 2016 model Ford Explorer, and it's the Platinum, so it's got a few extra gadgets. Maybe some of the others don't, but on the cruise control, on the front bumper, I'm told there is a component called the adaptive cruise control monitor.
There is on many of those as an option, yes.
Okay, so we're in the mountains at Christmas time with the family, and so we're driving down the street in the residential area where we've rented a cabin to stay in, and it's snowing, and it's a really a lot of snow, and the kids in the neighborhood have determined they're going to put snowmen up in the middle of the road and block the road, with the hopes, I've interpreted this by their actions, that somebody will run over the snowman and they'll get a big laugh and it'll all be fun. So my kids in the car saying, "Come on, Dad, let's run over the snowman, let's hit it." They want, and I'm like, I know enough about math and things to know that
the Iceman cometh.
Might not be the best choice of things, but being the dad that wants to be fun for everybody, I act like I'm going to hit the snowman, and so at the last minute I divert and miss the snowman, and the kids are hooping, and the daughter's saying, "Come on, Dad, they wanted you to hit it." So on the way back, they're still making snowmen. Now they have the whole road blocked. So I thought, well, I'm not completely stupid, so I'm not going to hit the thing running. I'm not going to hit it running 20 mile an hour or anything, because I don't want to collapse my hood or hit make the airbag go off. So I slow way down, but I knock one over, and everybody laughs. The kids are hooping on the side of the road or whatever, and then I get this light, and now it's been long enough I don't remember exactly what the light said, but it had something to do with the adaptive cruise control. So now going down the road, I can put my cruise control on, but my bells and whistles start going off, and it's annoying. So I can't run my cruise control without the little module telling me things. And so I take it to the shop, and they tell me, and he says it could just be that the sensors popped out of place. It could be real minor. Well, when they check it out, he tells me, well, you're going to need a new adaptive cruise control model. It's going to be $1,900 for the module and $200 for the bracket, and you got to pull the bumper off, and then you have to calibrate this mechanism. You're going to be looking at about $3,000. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think I want to do that. So I said, okay, that's fine. I'll take it home. So I do a little investigating to the salvage yards, and I'm going to buy a salvage module that's not been damaged and put it in. And she says, well, that won't work because those are vehicle specific to your car, and you can't do that. And I'm like, I'm not sure I'm buying that. So I listened to you guys on Saturday morning, and I thought, well, you guys would know a little something about this, give me a little insight on how to move forward, or if that could be just taken out of the equation and just the regular cruise control work.
That light you had on the dash, if you put the reading glasses on and look real close, it's hard to see because it's white and it's a picture of a little snowman with a line across it. No snowmen.
Yeah, they put that on in 2010.
Yeah. How many kids were in the vehicle?
It's my wife, myself, my daughter, and my nephew, and a little fellow that tags along with my daughter that I should have pitched him out, but
that was what did it. The extra mass caused the.
It's that, or you got to divide the bill by 5,
right?
Whatever that number is. I was trying to do the quick math,
there
but
you go.
You were encouraged and pushed into a crime of murdering a snowman. Do you feel bad about that at all?
I feel bad because
it was all great fun until the dollar sign popped up.
As someone who has high-centered a vehicle with the kids in the car, I'm with you. I get it.
I feel bad because when we were up in the mountains this Christmas, we let our grandkids build all those snowmen and push them onto the road.
I love this call. This is good.
Well, I got 5 of them. They can really roll a snowman fast.
They were doing a great job. They were having a great time.
Well, at least they didn't do the old Raiders of the Lost Ark and start at the top of the mountain and get a snowball rolling. Boom.
Well, and on your particular vehicle, the mounting location of the vehicles that have the adaptive cruise are in many different places. A good majority of them are mounted in the grill area, and it's not a very solid mounting point where they have them. It wouldn't take a lot of shock.
That one's in the bumper, though.
Yeah.
It's right in the
No, I'm just saying on other ones, though, too, for people to know. Because if you're ever going to put a custom little emblem on your grill or anything like that, you really got to know if you have any of those options that have radar cruise or that sort of thing coming out of the. Because the feature, when it works, is a wonderful feature. I've got it on a couple vehicles, and I really like it, except for when I get behind the vehicle going 55 miles an hour.
I can't imagine
and I don't
There you
realize
go.
that I'm. And then you pull out, and you're like, whoa, this is like utopia. I just
That
got.
is exactly. So there's where my deal comes in. I don't really care if I have that because we do quite a bit of interstate driving. My other daughter lives clear across the state of Oklahoma. Actually, I live in Oklahoma, and so when we drive interstate, it's like I was driving. Well, I can't really say how fast I was driving, but I was driving a little faster, and now I'm not. Turn over to pass. It's like, it's like you say, the vehicle just takes off, and it's like, I could do away with that interactive thing, and
Well,
it would be okay with me.
you can't do away with it.
It won't work, and the light will stay on. Sometimes the cruise should still work, doesn't it, by itself?
Yeah, it does work, but it dings every 6 or 8 seconds.
And you can, if you can deal with that, you can live with it. Otherwise,
you
you're
can't
going
deal
to
with
have to
that.
fix
Nobody
it.
can deal with a ding every
No.
6 or 8 seconds for us.
So you can get they don't make an aftermarket one, but you can buy a salvage part from Car Dash Part and have that installed and have it programmed. I know this can be done because we have put them in and then had them programmed, but they have to be programmed by what they call an ADAS certified place that can do this, which would be a shop that can do it. Very few independent shops do it. It's typically a big body shop or a dealership. In fact, there are some locations that have just one big giant building built for doing all these cars, and all the dealerships bring all their cars there and have it done.
Recent conversation I've
They're
had with
getting
somebody,
easier.
there's getting to be more mobile ADAS programmers, and they're coming in and they're doing it mobily, and they've got the targets they can use and different
Need a
things.
big area, though.
But that's something I heard this just recently from somebody that works at a dealership, and so that was interesting to me. They come into their dealership and do a lot of that specific
Interesting,
programming, and that's a change from what I heard and what Russ heard when we were at SEMA a number of years ago, when everybody was trying to sell these huge systems that you would set up in a big room. And I had a friend that was actually going to build a ADAS calibration center as a business, and he didn't go through with it. I never did ask him why, if it just was too much money for the return on investment or what it was. But it's like everything else, the market's got to figure this stuff out. And like Russ said, we've done this, so we know
we don't do the programming.
We don't do it, but
But it can be done.
Yeah,
There's certain modules you can't reuse. There are certain times you can't buy a used key to put on a new car. Sometimes with the push button fobs, they're just their one-time use. But in this case, I think you can use that in yours. You should be able to do it because we did it. We bolted one on and sent it off to have it programmed. So that'll save you a ton of money. And I think the programming is like $200. That's what they charged me on mine. And then the part, who knows what they get probably.
And you want to make sure you're at the right facility that's friendly to options and thinking of things. Some are a little more dyed in the wool for their brand, and they will not be quite as cooperative.
Greg, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. And go ahead.
Well, if he doesn't fix that dinging, it's not going to be the only thing that gets run over.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. If you follow us on YouTube, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the Hoodie fan club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Janice Bright from Manhattan, Kansas. Congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu. Get a hold of them. Get trained. Be a tech. It's a high-demand job right now. You can get out there and learn a lot from those people. They've got campuses across the United States in some warmer areas and some cooler areas. They can teach you everything you need to know about automotive and marine mechanics, welding, all sorts of things you'd want to know to get yourself a very good career from some very good teachers. uti.edu.
Let's go to Arizona and talk to Kenny. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Kenny, what can we do for you?
2012 Jeep Liberty. I bought it with 26,000 miles on it, and the first mileage was great, right up till about 100,000 miles. The engine's tight and good functioning engine, but the problem is these sensors. I'm having a horrible time trying to keep the fuel pressure up. All the warning lights keep coming on. I go to the dealer to get it fixed, and then it's all messed up again. All the lights are back on again about a month or two later, and I'm about at wit's end with it. It's a fuel pressure problem, mostly, is what I'm dealing with. And three fuel pumps later, it's still a problem. It's $1,000 for each fuel pump.
Oh.
If they put a fuel pump in any vehicle and it fails soon after, either it was a defective pump, which is very rare, or there was something in the tank causing contamination. All the manufacturers of fuel pumps, from the OEM at Jeep on down, especially Jeep, they were the first ones to warn us about it years ago in the 90s. All the way down to the aftermarket companies are going to say, clean and flush that tank thoroughly when you put the new pump in to make sure there's no contamination that could get in there and damage their components. Most people never do anything to the tank other than take the pump out, put another one in, and usually it causes zero problems. But if there is contamination in that tank, you could put 1,000 pumps in there and it's just going to keep doing it. I would suspect highly that there is something going on in the tank. We have, in our own shop, the 2012 Liberty, we haven't even had a phone call for one with a bad fuel pump. This is the first call we've had on the End of the Hood Show about a fuel pump in a Liberty. So that tells me
in that era,
there's not a real common bond here with this problem.
I want to go back just a second, Kenny. I want to just go back. When you get the sensors and the lights on, is it ever disabled the vehicle?
Well, it didn't disable it, but I got to the point where I'd have to leave it idling while I'm in the store, so when I come out, I can get in the car and leave.
Because
But,
otherwise it would let all the pressure dive off and then it wouldn't start again.
Yes, and then it got to the point where it didn't want to idle very long anymore either. I'd had to go through some stop signs because it would die if I stopped at a stop sign.
Did anybody ever put
But,
a manual fuel pressure gauge on it and watch the pressure to make sure that the fuel pressure was actually dropping and going down and there wasn't something else going on?
Yes, my nephew has a fuel pressure gauge, and he put it on there, and it's supposed to be 56 pounds, and it registered 24 pounds. And I just had it diagnosed again at a different shop, and they told me when it's at the point where it won't run, it's at 0 to 12 pounds. And that's with fresh fuel pumps. But it's just driving me nuts.
I would drive us nuts too. If you had two put in, and you came to our shop and said, "I've already put 2 of these in a very short period, or 3 in a short period," and you were getting ready to pay us to put another one in, I would probably sell you a tank and a pump at the same time, just so it's clean. There's baffles in there, and it's very hard to get everything clean. I'm going to inspect it and look and see what I see in there. And if I see anything at all that makes me concerned, I'm going to put a tank in it as well. Cleaning it, you may be able to get it cleaned out, but there's something causing it. The only other thing that can cause pumps to repeatedly fail is a voltage issue. If you have a low voltage issue, now we got to make sure that when they're putting this pump in, they check the fuel pressure. The fuel pressure's lower, way lower than it should be. Did they check the voltage and amperage at that pump while the pressure was low? Because just the simple act of let's say the plug is not in good shape. They unplug it, plug it back in, it starts to work. So when they unplug it, put a new one in, plug it back in, it may work for a few weeks and then start failing again in the case like yours is doing. So it may be the connector. When you put an aftermarket pump in, many of them come with a connector.
Okay, the first pump only lasted 3 weeks. So they replaced it for free, and that one lasted 3 months. But nobody seems to know what's going on. Nobody wants to do it properly.
Nobody probably wants to touch it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I spent $5,000 since it's had a
oh my gosh,
100 since it rolled over to 100,000 miles. I spent $5,000 trying to keep that thing running.
So didn't the people who sold you this pump give you a year warranty that covers parts and labor on it? 12 months, 12,000 miles or something like that?
Well, I did it at the dealership, and they had difficulty finding the pumps.
Is it a factory? Is the pump they put in? Is it a Chrysler Jeep product?
As far as I know, they didn't show it to me.
Okay, do some digging on that, because I believe that their warranty is 2 years, 24,000 miles on a Chrysler product. And I say that because we purchase a lot of OEM dealer parts, which are 2 years, 24,000 miles. Some are longer than that.
There are some that are less, but the majority are that.
And if they're put in at the dealership, their labor warranty is typically better. Because for me, as an independent shop, if I send the car back to them when it fails and it turns out to be a part failing, they'll cover it. But for me, they'll cover the part.
Talking both sides of this issue a little bit, just to kind of keep some levity to it, because things like Russ said do happen.
It's not funny.
No, I mean, if you're watching us on YouTube, you'd see my disgust when you said you spent $5,000 on this. It's just so frustrating for people when you hear these things. The first pump failure, and Jeep had this happen in 1993 with Grand Cherokees.
Oh, yeah.
The first, in that about year it was, that first generation?
You're taking me back to a different studio and
exactly.
remembering that call when it came in.
They would, when the pump would go bad, they would have a catastrophic failure of the pump, and it would release this
parts of the brushes and
little
material inside the pump.
Molecular, small, roly-poly pieces of grit.
Just grit.
That would get into the tank. And it was not such that the filter mechanism would, because like this Liberty should have a built-in filtering mechanism, but these pieces were so fine that they would pull them right through the filters, and then it would just tear up the next pump quickly. No different than if you didn't get all the material out of a transmission cooler from a bad transmission, and then you put it right back into the new transmission, you're going to tear up some stuff. So, like Russ said, you got to just have them double check every step. Let's give people the benefit of the doubt that their intents are good here to do the right thing. But they need to
knows about the cleaning too.
Exactly. They need to check every step to make sure that they've checked voltages, make sure they check all the grounding wires, and at the end of the day, the only other thing that, unless we just don't know about something, which is possible, that in that tank there's stuff in there from these pumps failing that is killing the next pump.
Kenny, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Yeah, that is frustrating, and as it racks up more and more, and you just want to get rid of the problem.
Well, your invoice for he's off the line now, but your invoice when you paid for the repair typically is going to have the part number or the part that was put on that vehicle. So they and the technicians and the service writers, they do that because they need an archive record of what they did to that vehicle. So if they ever need to go back and look, they also can go back and see, all right, because like I know Russ, he's learned from day one when we first started doing this to now that we've got to document the wording of what we did. We've kind of tell the story of what we did. And it's not just for the customer, it's for us also. For the customer, they've got a better chance of remembering what we did to their one car than we do remembering what we did to 300 cars in a month or whatever that number might be. And so you got to look at that stuff and say, all right, what does the first invoice say that they did? Replaced fuel pump with a blah, 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 And if it is a factory part, I would be asking a few more questions.
And I know I could imagine doing one and it breaks again and you just tell yourself, well, I'm not going back there. Whereas in this case, it might be one of those, hey, if you did that, because I could see myself doing it. If I couldn't text Russ all the time, I might do that.
Well, and with supply chain shortages, this is a different subject because like he mentioned, they had a hard time sourcing a pump. So maybe they went to a vendor they don't typically use.
Okay.
Maybe they couldn't get one from the manufacturer.
It doesn't carry that warranty. And sometimes if you're telling a customer, I've seen it before where they say, well, sorry, we couldn't get you the factory pump, but we're able to get this pump and it's going to cost this much. Is you ready to do it? You want to do it? Yeah, go ahead and do it. And they just,
you never discuss any
they're
warranties
glad
or
that
anything
it's
like that.
working, but then they find out, that's only got a 6-month warranty on it. We don't cover that. That makes it.
I just got a feeling there's more to this story for some reason. But if there's not, and he hasn't been serviced well with his warranties, that's
And the
a shame.
aftermarket companies they all have really great warranties, and they'll cover labor
something
on
doesn't
a lot of
add up
stuff.
here.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Mississippi and talk to Jeff. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jeff, what can we do for you?
I have a 2009 Ford Fusion, and it has less than 125,000 miles on it. And it has a recall on it, an ABS recall on it. And since we have a new president come in, he's trying to be green. And I have a problem with a bunch of parts on back order. How long is the warranty on it?
Okay, so you've got a part that's under a recall that they say they're going to do for free, but they can't get the part right now, correct?
Right. And I was told that most dealership has a 10-year parts available. After the vehicles have stopped making, they have at least have a part in stock or available to the dealership for 10 years. After that, it'll be aftermarket.
You know what? That's a good thing we can address here now, because that's another one of those things that people assumed. So going back into the 80s, 70s, and 80s, it was more of a just a customer courtesy thing that a lot of manufacturers would build parts and keep them available for, on average, up to 10 years. So you could still buy parts to maintain your car.
It was kind of just of a known practice.
But there were a wider range of vehicles that the parts usually fit. Now, sometimes they'll make a car like this Fusion that has a part that's specific only to it, and sometimes only specific to a certain engine size, transmission design, those type of things. So they sell fewer of them. They're not required by any kind of law or code to manufacture parts at all after the day they originally produce it. But they are required to get you a part equivalent to the OEM design and fit and function up to the end of your warranty period. So if your warranty period is 3 years, 36,000 miles, they have to keep your car running for that amount of time, but they don't have to give you any parts at all. We have had some cars that were 2 years old, a year and a half, 2 years old, model years, and we tried to get parts for them. They were specifically cars that we got into our auto recycling facility. They had been damaged by lightning or collision or whatever, and we thought, okay, this is a pretty new car. Let's see if we can get a part. And they said, well, this is a 1 year model thing on this. We don't have any. We can't sell you one. So we were like, okay, now what? And we found something used that was a good quality part to do it, but they didn't have to make it.
What about under a safety recall?
If it's a safety recall, let's say they find out your ABS module has failed.
I got one right here, Russ. I've got a recall from Nissan on 2013 to 18 Nissans. This is the first one of these that I've seen in a while. It seems like I had another one, but the recall is in regards to the headlight delamination on the inside of the headlight.
Right.
And making a safety recall. And so in this particular instance, if you're in that class, 13 to 18 Nissans, they're extending the warranty out another 3 years.
And if they do that because they found out there's a class
or else they'll
action
send you headlights
recall, sometimes they will start producing that
There you
product
go.
because there are recalls where it says you have a recall, parts not available yet. That means they're making parts. And right now with the shortages, making new parts are on the last priority compared to the ones they already need for new cars, unfortunately.
Yeah, Jeff, good luck with that. Thanks very much for the call. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Tom in New York. Tom, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Thank you for taking my call. You guys are amazing. First off, I want to say I appreciate
Oh, we got a problem with your phone line there. Let's try it one more time.
it.
Oh, yeah, it's no phone line there. Sorry about that, Tom. We'll try and get you back on here in a second there, Tom. We had a question come in on Facebook. Jay, and this kind of goes, this one's, I think, a pretty simple one to answer, but it's not a yes, no. It depends. Jay wants to know, is it worth getting a truck with over 150,000 miles on it? That is almost an impossible question to answer, except...
Yeah, it depends on the truck. We've got some really great running customer cars that come in with 250,000, 300,000. I looked at one the other day and I said, how do you justify you driving this 400,000 mile 2003 Yukon that is, runs a little noisy and clunky, but the body's beautiful on it and you've driven it in Minnesota? How do you not get rust when I've got one that I've taken care of and I have to take it off the road because the rust is so bad? I said, how do you do that? He said, I don't know. I just drive it. I think because he's driving it a lot, all the time.
Do you know how good that makes me feel?
Yeah,
That
I
he
do.
has to, that even Russ sometimes can't stay ahead of the maintenance and can't.
Well, look at your cars, Chris. You have not taken them off the road because they rusted.
That's true.
And other ones like yours, your models, have severely rusted. And I think that we were just talking before the show. I think if you have a car you don't drive much, but you take it out, you get it salty, and then you park it and it sits in your garage or your driveway for 2 or 3 weeks, I think it just eats away. But with you, you're driving it. Snow starts to melt. It washes some of that away. You're taking it to the car wash, but you're driving it and it's drying out. Those things can happen. But yeah, I see people all the time. 150,000 miles is like the old 50,000 miles. It's not that bad as long as the body's good and you do a used car inspection on it before you purchase it. Make sure you're getting a quality vehicle. It could last a long time yet.
All right, let's go to Tom in New York. Tom, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Thank you so much for taking my call. You guys are amazing.
Thanks.
I'm calling today. I'm calling today about my 2010 Nissan Frontier, an SE, four-door, six-cylinder, four-wheel drive vehicle. And I've been having some intermittent problems the last couple of winters. When it gets to be pretty cold, I get a crank, no start. But what I can do, even though it's cranking, no starting, you don't just crank. If I put a booster pack on it, it will start with a booster pack instantly, as long as it's not like 0 or below. Occasionally, it will start when it's cold without the booster pack, when I would expect to have to use the booster pack, but then it will get a service engine light soon light immediately. And if I take it down the road, that light goes away within 45 seconds or so, but it's definitely got a miss during that time. So I have a basic scanner, and I was able to pull a code on it during that time period, and I got a 0303 miss on cylinder number 3. But I've had no issues with this truck. I did replace the battery twice in the last 3 years because I was thinking it was like a low voltage issue, that it wasn't just firing the computer properly or something when the crank, like maybe an excessive crank draw. So I replaced the battery, and I went from a crank volt of 6.14 up to 7. And that seemed to help, but I can't really be sure because it's intermittent. But now it's definitely not. That's definitely not helped. So I was told that there's a lot of parts changers, was the diagnosticians around here. So I'm kind of like a handy guy. I have a couple classic cars. I got a 62 Beetle, a 66 Mustang. I can do struts and brakes. And so what I was told, but there are some things that are out of my wheelhouse. And this is out of my wheelhouse. So what I was told by a mechanic was that he thinks there's a pattern failure for the main computer, a bad solder somewhere in there, and that I should just dump the truck, which I really don't want to do.
That's dramatic.
I don't, yeah. He said just get rid of it, but I really don't want to do that because I got college for kids.
Sure.
Like that going on.
Computers in those, yes, they did. We did have a large number of failures with those, and some of them could be soldered up inside, and there's some YouTube videos on that to fix those main drivers for the injectors. And when the voltage gets a little low, they won't work. And in other cases, they replace those drivers, and there were some videos about how to get those, to buy the pieces off of Amazon and put them in and solder them in and make them work. And there's some companies you can send the computers to make that repair. But yes, that is one of the major issues with those, and I don't believe you can buy a used computer for that right now very easily. They're pretty hard to find.
If you go to Cardash Park, though, that would be your best chance.
Be your best chance.
Because then you're going to get a collaboration of auto recyclers from around the country all in one place that you could search.
Yeah, it's kind of a rarity.
I'm almost thinking, though, like yesterday, it's been very cold here. I went to move it. I haven't started it for about a week because it's not always my normal transportation vehicle, and it was very cold. So I put the booster pack on it, and it just would not start. And I have a feeling it's like a fuel issue. Am I totally off here on that?
Well, it could be the injectors not firing because of the computer thing, but another thing it could also be as simple as a carbon buildup in the engine. If there's too much carbon, the colder it gets, the harder it'll be to start. It'll absorb, the carbon absorbs all the fuel. It starts dripping, so it's lean. You can't get it to fire, and then all of a sudden it's flooded. And once it does start, you take off, go down the road. It takes a few miles for it to clear out and unflood itself and run good. That's an option too. If you hit it with a little shot of starting fluid and it fires right up instantly, that's one way to check on carbon. But you're also going to need to put a light. They sell a little Noid light for a couple bucks. You can plug into the fuel injector plug and see if it's blinking. If it's blinking, you know the injectors are getting power and it's not the computer. So that can eliminate that for a few bucks. That's a good way to test that.
That sounds good. It's been basically an around the town truck its whole life, 150,000 miles. So I have a feeling that would make sense to me, carbon buildup in those circumstances.
Can definitely do it.
It makes sense.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. That'll do it for Hour 1. Hour 2 is coming up. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturdivants.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist. And Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter, here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Well, we had an earlier call on an episode that talked about, is it worth it to buy a vehicle with 150,000 miles on it? Mm-hmm. And we never really got a chance to expound a lot on it. But I think what you're finding in the market right now, I think that's a really good question. And
more relevant than ever because
it is, because the supply and demand issues and selection and the ever-increasing cost of the new vehicles. The increases in cost in new vehicles are going to be higher this year than they have been in a long time. Mm-hmm. You throw the inflationary factors into it because of the cost of the raw materials, the cost of the components.
Everything.
The supplier's index that indicates what the raw materials cost has been rising, but it hasn't quite shook out in the prices of some of these items yet. You've seen a lot of the major manufacturers of household items and things that we buy every day have recently been coming out and saying, like Procter & Gamble said, that majority of their products are going up 8% into these different things. Doesn't seem so bad when you're buying a tube of toothpaste.
Right.
But if those same numbers start applying to vehicles that are already costing $60,000 when it comes to a pickup truck, you could be potentially costing yourself $5,000 more on a vehicle. Mm-hmm. We recently got in a damaged newer vehicle, and it still had the window sticker in it, and I was looking at it, and the transportation costs on that vehicle, it was a 2022, were $1,800.
Oh, my.
Do you remember looking at the window stickers back in the day? Transportation charges were $300 to $500 on a lot of the vehicles for the destination fees. So that's all changed. So you factor all that in, and you start looking at a vehicle that might be $50,000 to $70,000, and you're more than likely going to be financing that. Well, guess what just is going to happen now? They're going to start ratcheting up interest rates a quarter point, throughout the next year. That's going to add up. It's going to be a little bit of reaction in the market to it. Supplier issues are slowly getting straightened out, but your formulas will take longer to unfold. So that 150,000-mile vehicle is going to be an option for a lot of people. But that's where we really want to educate people. Okay, what are you paying for a 150,000-mile vehicle? And what are the things that, as you do a little research, that might commonly break on that vehicle? Sure. We just had one the other day where Russ and I were chatting about it was a 2012 or 13 Captiva, something like that.
Yes.
And the engines went bad. Had a problem with the engine. Vehicle was bought relatively inexpensive because it had some previous hail damage on it that wasn't nasty, but it's got some previous hail damage on it.
Good looking car, though.
Yeah, nice, clean, solid vehicle. It's a friend of ours. And Russ, he right away says, hey, go to Autotempest.com and look at the values of what these vehicles are selling for.
Because I said, hey, this is going to be $6,000 to $7,000 to put a reman engine in. And they went, are you nuts? I didn't pay that for the car. I'm like, well, I'm just go look. Autotempest.com. Find out what they're going for. Because you're going to have to go there to buy another car if you don't fix this one.
And you're going to see a combination of private sale vehicles, dealer vehicles, a little bit of everything is brought to one place. All the cars, one search.
You can see what you want, kind of.
Yeah, you can. But I mean, all the cars, one search. So we started looking, and it's also a place to find things you don't find in a lot of other searches too, because of the collection that they have of places that they search.
From the dealers all the way to Craigslist.
So in that particular vehicle, you could put a motor in it and still be, depending on what you're looking and comparing to, $3,000 to $5,000 behind what they're selling for.
And you've got a brand new engine
with a 3 or 100,000 mile warranty.
Right.
So, I mean, there are factors that are going to have to go into those formulas to think about this. So my dad just bought he wanted a truck that he could run around with, and he didn't want to buy a brand new one, and he just wanted something to update his dog truck.
Looks brand new.
And he found a beautifully clean 2014 Silverado crew cab, and the dealer that he bought it from knew the story of the vehicle. They had sold it new. They had taken it back in trade. This guy did a lot of running up and down the interstate back and forth to Texas, a lot of highway miles, had a transmission put in it that was in the history of the vehicle. When you looked up with the dealer records and or Carfax, I believe it was on both of them, and you could see that this work had been done. Transmission, if you asked my advisement, would be a weak link if you're looking to buy one of them trucks 150,000 miles. I'd want to know what's the condition of the transmission. Engines, not so much, but the transmission, I kind of want to know about it. And so, but anyway, he had to pay over $20,000 for that truck. It's a nice truck. But the equivalent of that same truck today that he bought, if he bought that same truck today in a 2022, he'd be spending over $60,000. So there is $40,000 difference.
Right.
And his demand and use for this truck doesn't warrant spending that money. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it does come down to what's your situation, what's your budget.
And that particular vehicle.
And then that vehicle, and doing some research with your mechanic that you work with and say, okay, because mechanics, we can be bad sometimes. We can say, oh, this breaks, don't buy that because this breaks. Because all we see is what breaks. But the reality is what you want to find out, okay, what are the common items that are known to have problems over time?
Well,
so you can budget what that might be and imagine that breaking.
We had that exact situation when my daughter needed a car. When my daughter needed a car, we found a car that had a known issue, and we knew the situation of the car, and were able to fix it and make that car affordable by knowing what the history of the vehicle, and it worked out great.
Yeah, and then the one that you got finally, I said, you asked me about like 2 or 3 of those. I said, absolutely not. Do not buy one of those. It's going to kill you and what to repair. And then one comes along with no miles on it. I said, you need to buy that. But you told me those were bad. I said, well, with this many miles, that's been well taken care of.
But like Russ said when he answered the call on the previous show, you do have to physically inspect that vehicle.
No matter what.
Right, because if the body hasn't held up and there's corrosion issues or a shoddy previous repair that's been done, that you know these are things that you can physically inspect, putting a vehicle up on a hoist with a keen set of eyeballs that have been around vehicles. Any mechanic worth his salt can look at a vehicle on a hoist and tell you some things that are very important. And they don't have to be an auto body expert, and they don't necessarily have to be a engine specialist of knowing everything inside the engine. But if they've got some good general mechanical aptitude of being around vehicles, they can look and see, you know what, right here, look, this is where the structure of the vehicle bolts together to hold the engine, and it is rusting around those mounts.
And you might have to pay for that inspection.
Exactly.
But it might be worth it if you're talking $20,000.
Well, and the vehicle might have 90,000 miles that's not near as good as the one that you should buy that's got 130,000 that is much cleaner and has been better taken care of and has a more solid body. So when that question gets asked to us, we could go on a rant every time, but there are so many factors that come into play when you make your decision. So I would say, yes, it is okay to buy that, and you should look at some of those options instead of putting yourself in a deep hole at time to time on what the financial situation is.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Robert in Michigan. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Robert, what can we do for you? Oh, wrong. Hold on a second. That was me. Robert, try again. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. I've got a 99 Chevy. It's a 1500 Silverado two-wheel drive. Got a 5.3 and a 4060E. On the highway, rear U-joint blew. off the end yoke and the drive shaft. And the drive shaft is pretty much garbage, and a chunk of the end yoke blew off as well. So I was just really wondering, should I be worried about getting a new trans from that damage and a new differential before I go buying a new shaft and a new end yoke?
Typically, Russ is. I was just talking so long on the last call. I'll let him go. I talk too much already.
So
I think we were both asleep. So did you?
You guys are like, yeah, you did talk too much.
it probably had a bad U-joint, and that's why the U-joint failed and it flew apart. So what you want to look for is cracks in the extension housing of your two-wheel drive transmission, because when you have a drive shaft start to vibrate and flop around, it can break that housing. If the housing's not broken, or the actual whole body of the transmission doesn't have a giant crack all the way around it, which happens, it's probably just fine. Put the new drive shaft in it, turn it around by hand with the vehicle in neutral, and make sure it turns, it's round, it doesn't hop up and down, and then do the same thing on the rear end. Put the yoke on it, spin the tires, and watch the yoke spin, and make sure it spins smoothly and not vibrate up and down, and then you should be fine. Whenever you lose a U-joint and that it gets so bad that the drive shaft flings out, you've got a lot of weight hanging out there on the end of that shaft, and it will rip stuff apart. So if you don't see any physical damage on either that giant heavy carrier on that rear end or on the outside of the transmission, it's usually fine. You should be able to make it.
Robert, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That's an okay answer. I feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah, me too.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. I was thinking I had $1 million idea for you, Shannon. And
what is that? $1 million?
My own knowledge got in the way. I was thinking, we got this chip shortage. We've got all these chips that they can't catch up on. You got a yard full of chips out there. There's so many chips out in those cars.
We were looking for Frito Scoops over Christmas, and we couldn't get them. They said they had a chip shortage, and I was so mad.
I tried some Old Dutch because I couldn't find the ones I wanted, and I actually was pleasantly surprised that not getting the scoops there was a satisfaction in that.
I was at the store the other day, and they had a sign that said, "No chip shortage here. Doritos, $3.99."
Oh, that's well played.
Yeah, so we're trying to find these scoops for this special olive dip we get every. We go every Christmas. And my sister's like, "We don't have any scoops," and then we go over to my mom's, and here she's, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And she had a stroke, so she doesn't speak anymore, but she's fine otherwise. And she just looks at us. She's like, eating Frito Scoops, and we're like, open the pantry, and there's like 3 bags of the big ones. We're like, we need to bring those over. And she's like, no. We're like, well, you can have all our regular Fritos. Okay.
I'm surprised, and maybe it's happened, that somebody, I don't think the market could be nimble enough for them to, we are tight with the core and the buy industry. That somebody hasn't harvested chips back out of these things.
I think they're specific,
Yeah,
but
I know.
the new ones are available.
I'm going to go get out
change
the
the
U-Pullet
technology.
yard with a soldering gun and
Yeah,
just
it's
start
not like
taking
that.
them off.
Well, we'll see what happens, because there are 2 chip plants being built in the United States.
Yeah, but that's going to take a couple years.
It's going to take a couple years, but we are seeing a lot of industry coming back to the United States, and hopefully
to secure the future for this not happening again.
Yes, but history repeats itself. So I'll bet still in our lifetime, we're going to see a major exodus of American companies moving over. It may be 25, 30 years, but off it goes, which is a sad thing. But
it's been proven it can happen in 4 or 5 years.
I've got fun news. We got it.
Oh, and just to dovetail on this quick about the chips,
they're delicious.
I think it was in Car and Driver, one of them, it talked about the chip shortage and said, just so you know what we're dealing with, the new infotainment system in this one vehicle, if you upgrade it, takes like 42 chips just for the if you get the upgraded infotainment.
Right.
It's 40 more chips on that. So it's not just one chip per car. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's all over. I mean, they're
and your refrigerator you can't get,
microscopic,
and
yeah.
your whatever else it might be.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so you have fun news.
Yeah, so Chris posted this to Facebook, and I kept getting responses. I didn't read the post. I kept getting responses saying, yeah, that GTO was a sleeper. And I'm like, that is not a picture of a GTO. So I finally went and opened it to look at what it is, and it was posted from hotcars.com. And
I
thought
posted
this was,
that.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yes.
All right, so Shannon
I'm
posted
guilty
this,
of posting that. It was
So-
Pontiac, and I felt offended, and so I had to post it.
So I thought this was fun, and this will blow you away. The 15 fastest cars Pontiac ever produced. And I'm thinking,
Does my name in the article?
they're Chris Carter, yeah. It said so. I'm thinking race cars or some exotic or thing. So let's start. Number 15,
Chris will like this. Did
This
you
will
read the
blow you
post,
away.
Chris?
I did not. No.
Okay, all right.
85, and we got to go through all these because they're really crazy.
They missed one.
85 Pontiac Fiero GT. It's a daily driver, plain old car, right? 125 miles an hour out of the box. That's nuts. 14, a 90 Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix. That was a common car.
I had both of those cars.
128 miles an hour. Now, I can tell you, I've gone 120 miles an hour in a Fiero, and it will scare the bejesus out of you. But
That was my wife's average cruising
when I
speed.
saw this, I didn't realize. I went, wait a second, they do go that. I thought the car was hopped up, but his friend's car, no, it goes that fast. So number 13, an 06 Pontiac G6 GTP, 130 miles an hour.
I drove one of those for a while.
That does not seem like you should do that
No.
in that car.
No.
Now, here, more
was quick,
realistic,
though.
69 Pontiac Judge GTO Ram Air 3, 130 miles an hour.
That car shouldn't have went 130 miles
No,
either.
it'd be
Trying to keep it straight.
floating all over. Now, okay, guys. Now, here we get into the crazy land. A 99 Pontiac Grand Am. 132 miles an hour. Would you want to go 132 in any Grand Am? No.
But you could.
All right. Now, this one makes more sense. An 08 Pontiac G8 GT.
Which
That's
was the Holden
The
LS
5.3
powered.
LS motor, 137 miles an hour, but still, that's like cooking it. 87 Firebird Trans Am GTA, 140 miles an hour. That was an aerodynamic car. They still, to this day, use those at the Bonneville Salt Flats with big engines to blow way over 200 miles an hour. But this is a stock right off of the car. Now, an 04 Pontiac Bonneville GXP, 141
Had a
miles
North
an
Star
hour.
V8 in it.
Yes, I have a relative who wants to sell one of these with no rust on it, with 38,000 miles.
Kind of a collector's item almost.
Yeah, well, they were gonna sell it. A dealership offered him $4,800 on a trade-in, and they thought that was good. And I said, no, stop. Autotempest.com, and then I said, you think about this, because I said, I bet that car will still bring 15 grand to a collector. 07 Pontiac Solstice. Chris is like, we got to go to the 07 Pontiac Solstice GXP, right stock, 142 miles an hour.
No comment.
Yeah. 05 Pontiac Grand Prix GXP, 143 miles an hour. 73 Firebird Trans Am, 455 Super Duty, 130 miles an hour, but really fast getting there. 63 Pontiac Tempest Super Duty. This is the one
Sleeper.
that blew me away. 163 miles an hour.
Sleeper car, maybe for NASCAR or something. Who
And
knows?
here, not fancy, not GT or anything. 98 Firebird Trans Am, 165 miles an hour.
LS motor, first years of that.
And Chris, two left. 09 Pontiac G8 GXP. You want to take a guess?
170.
175.
Oof.
175. And then in the end, 2006 Pontiac GTO. That was a common car with the LS motor.
5.7 LS.
$175. Now, people are like, okay, they're fast, but those are really fast speeds for cars.
What they missed was why I posted that article, because the 89 Trans Am 20th anniversary with a V6 turbo in it
Yeah.
was Motor Trend tested one at 162 miles an hour.
Was that the one I drove?
You might
Probably good. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you did drive that, I think.
Isn't
No,
that-
you drove the 99.
Okay.
Yeah, you drove the 99.
Okay. Oh yeah, it was the
Yeah.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Brady. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Brady, what can we do for you?
Hey, this is Brady from Minnesota,
You bet.
and love your show, guys.
Thank you very much.
And I have a 1990 Isuzu pickup. It's got the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder. It's 5-speed manual, and it's got a controlled carburetor. Is that kind of how I understand?
Yep, carbureted truck. If it's got a carburetor on it, it's they were troublesome.
Probably a little 2.6 or 2.3 liter motor.
Yeah. 2.35.
Are you
speed.
under the truck right now, Brady? Because there's a lot of noise on your phone.
Sorry about that. I've got Bluetooth devices that are deciding to fight over each other.
Sure.
So I think we got it now.
Yeah, that Isuzu used the early model of Bluetooth. Really early. You just
They called it green tooth. It was so new.
Yeah, they've got a carburetor that's electronic feedback on it, and they were okay when they were new, but after about a year, they kind of fell apart.
Oh, okay.
Started having issues. Yeah.
Well, it is. It's what happens is the you start it up, and usually you pump the gas once, starts right up every time, even in sub-zero temperatures. But in sub-zero temperatures, it'll be running, or if you just let it idle for a little bit, or even sometimes when you're driving it before it's fully warmed up, it'll just die. Absolutely no signal that it's going to die, no precursor to that. It just cuts out. And then you go back to start it again, and it's always flooded, extremely flooded, to the point where you cannot get it started again until you let it sit for a good hour or so and come back, and it'll start right up again. It doesn't act like it's flooding before it dies, but it sure acts like it's flooded after it dies. So is there something in that carburetor electronic system that's making it do that, or any ideas on that one?
We're gonna cliffhanger you, Brady. You got to stand by. Good luck with the Bluetooth during the break. We have to take a break. When we come back, we'll find out about Brady's Isuzu on the Under the Hood Show.
Dun, 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 dun.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
(866-594-4150) from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. If you follow us on Facebook and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like David Leeson, who listens to us in Brainerd, Minnesota. Congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, your one-stop source for all the training you could ever imagine you would want from the professionals who get it right from the manufacturers. UTI.edu.
Mm-hmm. If you got a kid that after high school, 2 years goes quick and you can kick them right out.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
You're really not. You just talk a big game.
Yeah, I do. Let's go back and talk to Brady about his Isuzu with the carburetor problem, Russ.
Yeah, so those carburetors on the Isuzu trucks in the 90s, early 90s like that, were electronic feedback carburetors. They do have some issues with them, and your issue where it just dies once it's starting to warm up, depending on your exterior temperature, can be due to a problem with the choke. So the choke is supposed to open up slowly, but as that little wax heating element type choke starts to fail, or even if it's just out of adjustment, it will open too quickly. So it's starting to warm up. It's doing just fine, but if you touch the throttle, all of a sudden it kicks down off a high idle, and it just falls on its face, and it may be hard to start because the choke's not closing. Sometimes you can fix that by replacing the choke thermostat, which hasn't been available for like 15 years.
So you can't.
Or the choke pull-off, which also hasn't been available for about that long. I do not know if you can buy the entire unit, like from China, as a knockoff Isuzu carburetor, because sometimes you can buy a whole carburetor for like $120.
Yep. And you find that with a lot of little scooters and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Some of those, for me, if a chainsaw goes bad or one of those little tiny scooters goes bad, $14 on eBay and Amazon for the whole carburetor, or you could take it in and spend $200 trying to clean it and fix it, and they can't get parts for them, so just buy the whole thing. But I think that Isuzu I have seen a few of the older carburetors for the Chryslers that had those. That
Like the Mikuni carburetors they put on them?
Yeah, and they made knockoffs. And you know what? For the purpose they serve, they're fine. If it operates good and it lasts 2 years, you've got your money's out of it for a couple $100. But I don't know if you can even get one of those at all for this. This kind of truck is it's in between fuel injection and carbureted. It's strict carburetor, and you might have to do a little. You may have to find an older carburetor that's just strict carburetor and put one of those on there, because parts for those are available. It's the electronic ones you can't get.
And you might check car dash part just to see. Maybe somebody's got something they acquired in a new old stock sitting in a box, sitting on a shelf. Box on Isuzu.
Could I bring it into you to see what else?
Nope.
Like, you can't even see what
I
would
won't even
match
work
it.
on it.
No, I mean just to check like parts and.
No.
Okay.
If you called me and says you say I have a 90 Isuzu, I'm going to say that's an antique, and I don't work on it.
That's kind of what's happening right now.
There's a lot of shops that just most shops will not work on, if they don't think they can get parts for it readily because they've experienced before, they're just not going to touch it. It's the same thing as if you say, well, my car sometimes dies, but only once every 2 weeks. Can you check it out? No. I mean, there's so many cars now. There's such a shortage in technicians and so many cars that need to be fixed that we know, okay, you need brakes, you need an oil change, you need tires, you need shocks, you need a fuel injector. Yeah, boom, 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 out the door they go. Those little specialty things are where shows like this, where we can say, hey, try to find this and that, look on eBay, look on Amazon, or get on YouTube and see if there's any way to convert it to a manual choke. You know, there's people that they find ways.
Everybody at the shop level, to us as dismantlers, everybody, they're having to budget their time way different than they did before.
In order to not have to charge you way too much for
standard stuff. It's such a commodity,
stuff.
and so Russ is going to be weary as he takes the calls, because at the small facility we have, which is not unlike many when I get around our area, where there's 2 or 3 people, 4 people doing stuff, they're all hands-on. And so they don't have time for a time pirate that's going to get them a lot of time invested and not a lot of return. They're just not a lot of time for that. Now, there are some places that may have a dedicated parts person and a dedicated service writer, and they spend more time and have more time to research some of that stuff, but still, we're finding more and more with
on a 1990 Isuzu pickup.
Sorry, but I just can't spend the time on that.
Does that help you out at all, Brady, or just bum you out?
Oh yeah, sounds like it's baling wire time.
If you're that kind of guy, it very well could be.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
YouTube, looking for someone who's converted one to a manual choke, is probably going to be your best option for this.
Brady,
make it work.
Thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Speaking of his Bluetooth problem, I had a problem with my Bluetooth the other day. I was getting ready to go to work, and I had my phone on, and I was plugging it in, and it was not working. Could not get it to work.
Oh, no.
Turning it up, no volume, trying to change songs and stations and get it all to work. Nothing worked. And then I noticed a light come on in the house because I was attached to the living room home theater system. And I had it at full blast.
Oh, boy.
At 2:30 in the morning.
You did this?
Yeah, about a week ago.
How big of a fan were you in the house?
I don't know. I left. I just went to work. Oops.
And you were able to get back in when you got home?
There's a code.
Okay.
The code was the same.
And you're the one that knows how to change the code?
Dog wouldn't come out from under the couch for a month, but
Chris, probably the one reason that would get you to buy a brand new car right now, Bluetooth.
Yeah.
The one I have that's not necessarily brand new will connect to like 4 devices at once.
Oh.
And they'll all operate. So I got Apple CarPlay going.
Oh, yeah.
With the phone hooked up and navigation. And my wife's got her phone out with playing music off of it. And
Really?
they're both working together. Yeah, so I've got CarPlay on while the radio's playing.
I need a new car.
Bluetooth with multiple connections has been available for a couple years now in GM, like going back to the 20 model.
Yeah, they must have. That would be a nice feature.
For sure.
I don't know why they're not seeing it. I've got a couple aftermarket radios that don't have that. I just wish that the regular Bluetooth would work like it's supposed to.
Well, yeah, because we would go on a trip with friends, like drive to a Vikings game or something, and I would plug in to charge my phone into the USB, and it would instantly try to hook up Apple CarPlay.
And now it asks.
Oh,
It
I
says
love that.
so you set the priority.
love
You say
that.
connect first, connect second, connect third.
Oh, that's good.
Did you like plug in to change the channels and get whooped at Name That Tune like you did when we went on our road trip? Is that what you were doing?
Not playing Name the Tune with this
Okay.
group.
Okay.
We need to take another trip like that again.
You want to get another chance at that?
You'll kick
we
my
did
butt.
great. That was pretty fun.
Let's get the
Yeah.
three of us and Terry Johnson,
Yeah,
and we'll just ride and listen.
Yeah, like karaoke or whatever it is, that carpool karaoke that
Yeah, there you
we
go.
can come up with carpool Name That Tune.
Exactly. 866-594-4150. Got a couple questions that came in on the chat online. Megan has a windshield cracked in her 16 Mazda CX-9. How much to replace? And she does have to have it calibrated. That is going to be...
I'm going to suggest that
I
she
know
gets
somebody that needs one right now.
Yeah, I'm
They
going to
got a
suggest that you get multiple quotes, and please do check the dealer, because we were finding on some of this late model glass that the OEM equivalent, the OEM dealer price installed, is as affordable as anything you're going to find, and they're using a factory piece of glass.
I had one done at the dealer with a factory glass, and I was pleasantly surprised by the price.
So, and there's many things that you go looking for options because of the cost of the OEM factory glass. And we can't seem to find a rhyme or reason to it, and supply issues are totally real in this realm on windshields. So some of your big brand name aftermarkets have struggled to keep stock on glass for the popular part types that are out there. I think some of it's come around, but I know talking to my one friend that does glass, he said there was times that a certain Silverado pickup windshield or F-150 windshield, there was one on hand in the region available to the independent installers. And I know that the OEMs have gotten low on certain ones. But I would speculate that you're going to have to spend, if it's out of your own pocket, you're going to have to spend somewhere between $350 and $750 on that repair.
This person was quoted $700 a couple days ago, and they asked me. They said, "Is that real? I thought they were a couple $100." I said, "Mine was $750." I said they're ranging higher now for a lot of reasons, but with the ADAS in them,
exactly. If it needs
calibrating-
ADAS programming for the systems, the safety systems on there, it's going to bring in an extra expense that hasn't been there before.
I would encourage everyone to look at their insurance and see how much it would be to add full glass coverage.
Oh,
because we have it, and
I guess that's going to go up.
I bet it will, but as of right now, for us, it's very affordable and has paid off multiple times.
Russ has got a moment there. He's
going
having,
way back to the guy with the Explorer who ran into the snowman intentionally.
That's right.
It never came up. Why didn't he check with the insurance company? If it's $3,000 at the dealer to do it, but maybe he's got
The
$5,000
snowmobiles,
deductible.
the snowman's insurance company?
Yeah.
See if he can get it split between his insurance and their insurance. It was the snowman's fault.
Yeah, you have to go back and find that snowman call.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
You should have gone back and found the kids.
Oh, stop.
Oh wait, they were mine, weren't they? No.
yeah. They were
Never mind.
Trying to give you a heads up there, Russ.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Chief. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
I have a 2010 Nissan crew cab 5.6, and the slip light, VDC off light, and the brake light comes on sporadically. I mean, it seemed like that first real cold snap, that's when it started, but I just don't think that really had anything to do with it, because it comes on and goes off. And what do you think that is? It's got 177,000 on it. I've had no problems with it till this.
If you can get a code out of that ABS system or the suspension, it's very possible it's going to come up with an intermittent failure of a wheel speed sensor, and temperature will cause that. It can relate to that if you got a coil that's starting to fail in one of those sensors. So I'm thinking that maybe that's what's going on, because that'll set those lights off. You can get a traction light and all that stuff as well.
So it's not completely because it's cold out. It's just the cold is affecting a component that's getting to the end of its life or has a problem and making it tip to the tipping point of not being able to give the signal.
Yep.
That,
sure.
that
Well,
could be.
going to just shut the whole system off and make me pull the side of the road my truck quit, or is it just
I don't think so.
maintenance?
No, I think it's just going to keep having this light, and it's going to do exactly what it's doing now until it finally fails. I mean, if you were to unplug a wheel speed sensor, you'd get those lights, and you'd still be able to drive it, but your ABS and your traction and all that will not work with the light on.
So the cold, you're going to want it. It's more important than ever to have it.
I'd get it scanned and see if it is a sensor, and then replace it if
there
it's
you go.
a sensor.
On a wrap-up, you can get this checked. Hopefully they'll see it. Not an expensive repair if that's what it is. I mean, in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
And put it back to the way it's supposed to be.
Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Dan in Minnesota. Dan, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, I'm in South Dakota right now and actually live in Iowa.
Dan from the tri-state area. What can we do for you?
There you go. I just inherited a 1996 Chevy Monte Carlo. One owner, 101,000 miles on it. It's in showroom condition. I wonder if I could use ethanol.
Sure. Yeah, you could run E15 in there all you want. That's not going to be a problem.
It's probably had E15 ran in it already.
Yeah,
if it's from Minnesota,
whether you know it or not.
Been in Minnesota.
It was Mile. I got the original window sticker and the bill of sale and everything.
If anybody's driven it in the last year, yes, it's had E15 in it. It just has.
Well, my 90-year-old aunt drives it. I know they don't have E15 in Georgia.
Well, you know, we're making a comment that is pretty common that people don't always know, but a lot of the fuels that are out there have already got a blend in them, and it's not noted, depending on where you're at. And so it's been part of the blending process for quite a while.
Yeah.
So that's why we make that comment. We're not trying to say that she purposely went up and said, I want this. It was just the cars had ethanol in it in this part of the world. I'll guarantee it.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question, you're fine with it. You know, don't be putting E30 or E85 or anything in it. It's an older car, but it's got a fully closed fuel injection system in it. It's capable of running up to 15 with no issues at all.
Yeah, and 10 is common even in regular non-ethanol fuels. 10 is common. So, 866-594-4150. Thanks very much for the call. 866, I just said that, 594-4150. Let's talk to Dave. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Dave?
Hello. I have a 2011 Toyota Avalon. I've had a little trouble with a power lock, the key fob. So the situation is this. I can unlock the car with my key fob or the power on the driver's door, but to go to lock it, it won't lock any of the doors. I replaced the batteries in my fob, so I don't know if there's a connection issue or is it sensing like I have one of my fobs in the car yet. It sounds like when I go to unlock, they all open up. If I manually push them locked, but then to unlock them, it just won't do it. I don't know if there's what my issue is there.
And you have two key fobs?
Yes.
Both doing the same thing?
Yes.
They could both be bad. You'd need to go to a place, the hardware store or an auto parts store that has a little machine on the counter where you can push your button and it'll light up and tell it if it's getting a signal. That way you can test all your buttons with it. The car will probably be out there honking in the parking lot. But, you can do that and test. Because we've seen two remotes fail with the same button. The other thing could be there could be a lost remote in the car. That's probably unlikely because you've had the car a while. You'd know, keeping it from working. And then the other thing could be it's got a problem with a module in the car that wireless module that's not sending the right signals out to unlock it and lock it like it's supposed to.
Okay. I've done a little bit of research on Google. There's some like resets when I've done the windows. They weren't working, and then I did that. The power where you could hold them for 5 seconds and all that jazz. And that worked. One of the windows wasn't doing that, so I did that. I don't know if there's a reset with the locks or maybe not.
It's possible. I would read the manual on it and try that reset first and before you go buying any parts for it. And then if that doesn't work, then go into the a parts store and see if the remote is actually sending out signals. That'd be the second thing. And then you'll take a little shop diagnosis to little.
I know I had a
more
recent
money.
experience where I had bought an aftermarket remote, and because the OEM one wasn't available, and had it programmed and it worked, and then all of a sudden it just stopped, and I'm like, oh darn! But we had to do that. We went down and checked because we wanted to eliminate: is there another problem with this vehicle? What's going on? And that remote, which we had just bought, was no longer emitting a signal.
Okay.
That remote was dead. And so since then, the OEM one became available again, and went down and had it programmed, and it's working fine. So fingers crossed, because I mean those issues can be kind of pesky.
And those key fobs, I'm pretty happy over my lifetime with the performance of the key fobs in my life.
Yeah, you just change the batteries once a year.
And they once a year.
Yeah.
They just, I mean, because I remember when, like, I think my first key fob I ever had, we tried not to bang it around, and
Be very careful with it.
Yeah. And now
You chuck them across the room when somebody needs the keys.
absolutely.
You're not supposed to,
Right,
But you
but-
do it. It's happened.
Yeah,
Russ
you-
is over there like, how dare you?
Yeah, I just bought a new remote start remote because that's happened a few times and it was expensive.
Well, the one that I had was that it's almost a classic or an antique, as Russ would call it, but it's an 06 Range Rover that we've been working on. And on that one, you cannot replace the battery unless you go to YouTube and watch somebody show you how to cut it open
Yeah.
with,
really?
with a Dremel. And then you can buy a replacement body for it and put the circuit board in it because the buttons wear out. But it's supposed to be a waterproof, and then it recharges off of the steering column while it's in the vehicle running, is how and it recharges the battery.
Like a phone.
Of course it doesn't work then.
That's why those vehicles, when they get a little bit older, are very problematic, and you have to be very patient and have a few resources to own it.
Yeah. Dave, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Ole. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Ole, what can we do for you?
I've got a 2016 Cadillac, and when I'm driving in traffic, I can hear other phone calls once in a while through my radio.
That's awesome.
Other people having their conversation in the car next to me or behind me.
Yeah, the Bluetooth is not supposed to connect to other signals, but they have been known to pick up that way. It's very rare, but it can happen.
Hold on a
You
second.
sure there's not somebody hiding in your back
I
seat?
was going to say, hold on a second, Ole. Do we think it's the Bluetooth, or is Ole, is he
could
just
be
hearing voices?
But
Oh, that's not
Oh,
nice,
yeah,
is it,
no.
Ole?
maybe they're talking too loud in the
I've
cars.
talked back to these people, and they get a little upset about it.
Oh, so you can actually communicate with them?
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
talking
they
just
call-
like I'm talking to you.
Yeah, it's his.
One girl, I said, well, what time are you going to be home? She was talking to her
Oh,
boyfriend.
I've never had that happen before. Have you had that happen, Russ?
No.
You can make people real upset.
I have. I have done it with, but only I think with phones that are mentioned. There are times when, like, I'm driving with my son, he's in his car, I'm in mine, and the phones will connect to each other's car. But I think it's
How could
already
that
found
happen?
those connections. I think in our case, his phone is on my stereo and vice versa. So I think
No,
that's
some
how,
of the early Bluetooth
Yeah.
had some issues and they needed to be reprogrammed.
So is the problem's not with his 16 Caddy? Is it?
It's the car.
Is the problem is the other one that he's connecting to?
No, it's his car is picking up multiple Bluetooth signals at once.
Should he get a software update of some sort, or maybe he enjoys the conversations and he doesn't want to change it?
I'd leave it, but because they're probably not getting your conversation, you're just getting theirs.
Oh
Well,
boy!
I have been very careful about my conversation since it started.
No, they only work about 30 feet, so you should be good.
Ole, thanks very much for the call. Yeah, I have seen that. And it's happened, you know what? Come to think of it, it's happened to me in traffic before with other people, with music. Not with phone calls, which I think is just a coincidence of timing, but it has happened with music. So I think, yeah, if you have an older, it was more common in older vehicles and older Bluetooth on phones. But yeah, I think if it's happening in 16, that's.
Yeah, I know there's, if you watch news and media, there's certain politicians that have never wanted to use a Bluetooth device.
Mhm.
They always want to use a wired headset and these different things because of some of these
They
very
can
reasons.
be intercepted. They
Yeah.
do have devices to do that.
Very interesting.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Until next time, you can find us at underthehoodshow.com. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. All right, we've got another call in. This is the after show. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Mike. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Mike, what can we do for you? Oh, I have to put him. It turns out I have to still turn the phone on.
You've had an off day on some of this stuff.
Why do you have to bring it up?
Because it's the after show.
Mike, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I love your show, guys. I've been going to call you forever, but I'm always running. But I just stopped, and I thought I'm going to give you a call. I got an 05 Chrysler Crossfire, bought it new, 45,000 miles on it. It's a little bit of an issue when I start it. It wants to keep cranking, and then it won't start, but you just reset it back to the off position and turn it on. You might have to turn it on and off 2 or 3 times before it'll actually catch, but when it does catch, it takes right off. So I don't know. This seems like when you turn it on and wait a half a minute, it's better, but it still will, just crank and not fire, so you have to shut it off and turn it back on to get it to fire up. So I don't know. I just thought maybe turning it on had to build up fuel pressure. Maybe I just need to check some of that stuff.
Well, and then that Crossfire, if I remember right, has 2 tanks in it that makes it a little more interesting for some of those fuel-related issues.
Okay. Just like a Pacifica.
Gotcha.
So they're
okay.
kind of transfer between them.
There's a drive shaft between the two of them, so they have a hump in the middle, and the fuel has to go from one side to the other. So they have 2 fuel pumps, 2 sending units, and a crossover tube. And it's crazy. So it sounds like you've got a fuel pump failing, though, and when you cycle that key like that, it does do a pre-prime to it, and then it allows it to start. So
what would be your process if that Crossfire comes into the Nordstrom's Installation and Diagnostics Center?
First, I'm going to go a Crossfire. Oh, crap. Really? A fuel pump issue?
I don't know if I want to work on that.
Yeah.
Okay, after you get over that and you decide, Mike seems like a good guy. Let's see if we can help him out.
I'm going to get my fuel pressure gauge out, check it. And once I verify the pressure's bad, then I'm going to say, all right, here's a price for the pair of OEM factory fuel pumps for this vehicle, because we only replace them as a pair. Put them both in, because sending units, fuel pumps, the whole bit can be an issue. You got a pump on one side, and then you got to transfer on the other side.
Do they give you an access hole on that thing, or do you have to tear that hole?
You got to take the tank out and the drive shaft and stuff.
Just the drive shaft, not all rear suspension or anything?
I don't think so.
Some of those are buried up under the rear suspension. And
you might have to take that off of the suspension on that one, but it depends on what Pacificas and stuff we had those. But you pull it out and you replace them as a pair, and it's old enough now too that it's got about time for fuel pumps.
Yeah, it's been doing it for a couple of years, and I thought, well, I can keep diagnosing it, but that is one thing I did notice. If I just turn it on and wait for all the beeping to stop and lights to stop, quit flashing, then boom, it'll start up a lot of the times, but it has failed me then too. So made me just wonder about fuel pressure. So I'm close enough to you, I might bring it into your shop.
Yeah, and like I said, the gauge is going to be the biggest thing. You're going to have to be able to duplicate it, that it's, and then just see it, okay, it's not starting. All right, we got low fuel pressure. I mean, that's what it is, but it doesn't always duplicate either, because sometimes things are just clicking and it's like, oh, darn, it's not showing us anything.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I drive it out to the hills, and I don't shut it off. I just get out there, and I'm fine. I just make sure it starts, and I just let it run, and I gas it up and let the motor run, whatever, so I don't have to shut it off. I don't want to get stranded somewhere. So,
I don't blame you.
Anyway, but I may bring it into your shop and just relay this information back to you and see if we can't get it corrected before I start driving it again in the spring.
Well, thanks for being a hoodie. We appreciate it, and thanks for hanging in there with us for the after show.
That's right. All right, that'll do it for the Under the Hood show. Thanks for joining us, and be safe. You know what I mean?
That's it? We're going to end it like that?
I think so. You got something to...
No.
I'm just thinking if I do or not.
Subscribe, like the YouTube video.
Yeah, please.
We appreciate that. It helps more people find the show and get it. I mean, you don't have to watch it; just subscribe to it, just so it's there. But no, seriously, if you want to know, if you want to see what's going on, a lot of people watch us at work, things like that. If you're subscribed and you got a little notification, you remember. I have so many people that say, "Oh, so I wanted to see your show the other day, but I forgot. It didn't remind me." And like, well, if you hit the reminder button, it'll tell you.
Maybe we have a calendar note. Maybe we could just add everyone to the calendar note. My phone buzzes early on Thursday because of the calendar note Shannon made. Maybe if you want to be invited to that
Do like a MailChimp invite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
just subscribe and
Just-
click notifications, and then we'll automatically send you
That's
that
true.
reminder every week.
And we can do that for you.
Yep.
We will do that for you in that fashion, but it will not be us doing it. Do not sign up for us doing that, Chris.
No,
Bad
no.
idea.
Well, they just have to text you their email address. You can add them as your contact. I see no downside to this. Shannon.
Stop. Hey, I was going to be Dennis the Menace and just bring something up that we should talk about it before I bring
Do
it
it.
up.
No, go ahead. Is it about me?
Kind of.
Is it personal? Is it
Not really.
is it hygiene related?
Not today.
Go ahead. Bring it up now. Go for it.
Well,
Got to stop drinking out of the toilet, bud.
yeah. Well, if you're out there right now and you're watching us on one of the video channels after our show, and you are interested or know somebody that would want to do some internship on doing some video work, possibly, maybe somebody that's in school or something that would like to help us, we've got a couple of things we'd like to try, and not a big budget to do what we want to try, but maybe somebody is out there that's an intern, maybe going for
And they need a school project. There's a few people that
marketing
need
or
to-
graphic design or video production or those sort of things, and you'd be interested in a project to help us try a few things, we might be interested in talking to you.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good one.
I guess, see, I kind of hadn't even mentioned that to you guys that I thought about bringing that up. But
we haven't even talked about it.
But somebody that might be watching right now might know of somebody because they're video interested because they're watching us on this after hours show.
We want to make this channel better. We're gonna
Yeah.
we want to we want to add more things for you. Like when you're watching those breaks and you go, "Hey," I get people all the time say, "The breaks are weird," but if they come back and watch it tomorrow,
Right.
they won't see that. But you get a bonus by watching it now. You're watching it ad free. So if you're subscribed and watching it as we do it live, it's ad free. But you see that commercial break we have that we don't
not
cover.
always. Sometimes when I turn on the live feed here, it gives me an ad beforehand
It
in the
shouldn't.
live show.
That's your setting. Because
Okay.
I've been putting the ads in like a week.
Well, no.
ago.
I mean,
no. You're going to get YouTube ads.
Yeah, when I go to
Yeah.
YouTube and click on it right now live, sometimes it gives me an ad before it goes.
That's a YouTube thing that you can't get rid of.
Right.
No,
But
that's the point
what
he's
I'm
making,
saying,
though.
yeah.
We're not putting our advertisers in there yet.
Right.
No, I mean when you're watching
Yes.
the show and it stops and says ads in 10 seconds, you won't get that for at least a week after
Oh,
this
yeah, that's-
live show.
okay. Yeah,
So
all right.
you can watch the whole
That's
thing.
a point. Okay,
Yeah.
I get it,
But we
Russ.
need
I get
somebody
it. See, we
to-
weren't paying attention.
So we're doing this live to a radio station right now now that we're off the air, but we were doing it live during the show. So when it
If
says
we are still on the radio station, we have a problem right now.
when it's we're fine. Then we could get that graphic designer. So when it says we'll be right back, we're taking a break, and during the live show, you're like, well, what is this 3 minutes of a screen there that shows us in the corner live doing our thing? And people are like, why are they taking a break on a live YouTube show? It's like because we're taking a break to do a commercial on the air on a radio station, but we want to put something in there interesting to cover that so people can see that, watch that while we're doing, our off the air break and those kind of things. And the openings we want to change up and stuff just to make it more fun for the people who want a visual instead of a podcast audio.
So there you go. That was good. Yeah, contact us. If you contact the person first, if you have someone in mind.
Don't just volunteer somebody.
Right. This is Shannon. Your friend Kevin told us to call you.
What was which you guys know I don't know movies. Which movie was it that the line was never underestimate the spirit of a volunteer? It was from one of the space movies where they were landing one of our space missions. It was a recreation of one of them.
I don't know. And I've probably seen it.
You're looking at Chris.
No,
I'm
of course
expecting
I don't
one of you guys
know.
to know this.
How do you contact us? There's a button right on
There you go.
YouTube that says ask us to make a video. Click on that. Or go to our website.
Russ is serious as a heart attack, and I can't
Facebook.
stay serious
That's
right
why
now.
I knew it
That's
was
all right.
okay if you brought it up, because if we're used to just rolling right over it and going to the next thing if it's not panning out.
I got to Google this now. Just say
Oh,
something
boy.
before we get off here. Never underestimate the spirit. You know what, Chris? You know I've got this completely wrong.
Yeah.
This is common for you watching right now.
It'll be
for me to try to quote.
Yeah, it was Vince Lombardi. We're gonna win. No, I was wrong. Did you Heather? You ever? We did get a question on Facebook asking about if you have all-wheel drive and you blow a tire, do you have to buy new tires, all four? And someone answered, unless the other three are brand new, yes. And they have to match sizes. You might not have to buy 3 brand new tires, but you have to find one.
If you have an all-wheel drive movie, if you have an all-wheel drive vehicle, you have to get your tires synced on size.
Right.
And it has to be the original size, as the door jamb says. And they've all got to be synced in size. And if you don't rotate your tires regularly, that's going to be a problem because you really want to be able to nail that. So, can you take over and talk? 'Cause I'm not searching well here.
No, we'll wait.
You're going to let me?
Let's just be quiet till Shannon finds it.
Oh, my goodness.
You want us to do prod while you're...
I don't know. I'm on something here. But you're the better searcher of the internet than I am, Chris.
What was it? Never underestimate?
Never underestimate the spirit of a volunteer. And it was one of our space movies about one of our missions that our Space Force took.
Jeremy writes in, good morning, guys. I've got a 97 Ford Ranger with a 4-liter engine and automatic transmission. Within the last 2 weeks, when I go from reverse to drive, the trans won't go forward unless I drop it to second gear first and then back to drive. Not first gear, but second gear first. It's been very cold lately, and I thought it might be the cause, but it still does it now that it's warmed up. It really hasn't warmed up. Is there anything that I could add to the transmission to loosen the gears inside, or is this a sign of bad things to come? I think it's a sign of bad things to come, but it sounds like your valve body is starting to hang up. If you can put it into drive and then put it into second and back into drive and it starts moving, I think your valve body's hanging up. So what you could do is try an additive from our partner at Justice Brothers, transmission cleaner additive. You put it in, you drive it, you run it about 10 miles, shifting through all these gears. You want to shift it manually with the lever on the column there. Through those gears, down into first and second, move it around at low speeds, and reverse too. Get it on the highway, let it lock up in overdrive, and do that a few times, and then flush the transmission using a machine that flushes all that fluid out, and put a conditioner additive in there from Justice Brothers, and that will lubricate those valves after cleaning them and possibly fix this issue. So it could be a cheap repair, or it could be that you're starting to have some bigger issues going on, and when you're putting it down into second, the pressure increases and gets it to go into gear. It takes up that space in that clutch pack. So good luck, Jeremy.
I have no idea what Russ just said to those, but it sounded good.
You can go back and listen.
How about never? We could right now. We're probably never underestimate the heart of a volunteer.
What was that from?
It seems to just be ubiquitous. Jimmy Doolittle from the Doolittle Raid said...
That's a little older.
Yeah, hold on. He had one that was...
I will be in a rabbit hole looking for this, but right now I think I have to stop.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because I'm going to try to describe an actor to you next.
Jimmy Doolittle.
I'm going to try to describe an actor to you next, and it'll even be worse than me trying to remember this quote. So
was it Alec Baldwin?
No.
Okay, because Jimmy Doolittle was the guy who did the Doolittle Raid, Army Air Corps, World War II. He has a famous quote, "There's nothing stronger than the heart of a volunteer," when they were getting ready to do the Doolittle Raid. And that...
What was the movie about the Apollo mission?
Apollo 13.
There's a lot. I mean...
The big
that was a big event. So there's been a few movies. There's TV shows about it.
Okay, I'm done. I'll have to get back to you. And for those watching, I often conflate jokes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Movies, songs, and sometimes a combination of all three.
The good thing is I turned the feed off like 10 minutes ago. No, I didn't.
You should have. But Russ had a very good under the hood show moment there that I didn't even hear.
Maybe he did.
Oh, Russ did it. It was good. I'll guarantee it. If he did it, it's good. If I would have did it, and you two weren't listening, all bets are off.
Now you know why we need a video guy.
Thinks I just made up the call. The question, the answer.
All right, that'll do it for the Under the Hood
It was a
show.
real email.
I may or may not someday solve this
I can't wait. If you know that, please contact us right away.
He's the guy that worked in the Mission area.
Call us right now. 866-594.
Pat Devaney.
No. Oh, Pat could call.
If you know
he was
this.
involved.
He would know.
All right, hold on. If you know this right now, we are in the studio at 11:15 Central Time on Thursday. 866-594-4150. I'm shutting off the video feed.
Is there life out there?
But we'll be here for a few minutes, all right? So I'll leave the phones on, and if you know, please call us.